Hi, I'm Toby Sullivan, and I have a story. I was fishing out west about 20, 25 years ago, and I flew back through Anchorage on the way back to Kodiak. And I stopped at the bar in the Anchorage airport. I had a layover, and I went up to that bar to have a drink, and it was a pretty quiet afternoon. There were a couple other people up there, a couple guys, and the bartender. And everybody just minding their own business. And then the guy down at the end, he says to the guy that was sort of sitting between us, he goes, I see you have a watch there. It's a pretty nice watch. And this guy had some big watch on his wrist. And the guy with the watch said, yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's a pretty cool watch. And the other guy goes, well, if you don't mind my asking, where'd you get that watch? And he goes, well, it's kind of a weird story, but I was halibut fishing about 5 years ago down off the Alaska Peninsula, and we got this halibut, came in over the rail, and I was cleaning it out, and I felt something in its stomach, something kind of hard, and I cut it open, and this watch was in there. This watch was inside the halibut. And everybody in the bar looked at this guy. They said, that watch that's on your wrist, you found that in a halibut? He goes, yeah, about down by a Linchak. It was just a halibut, and I could feel it in there. And I don't know how it got in there, but here it is. And he goes, it didn't work when I first pulled it out of the halibut, but I had brought it to a watchmaker, and he fixed it up, and it's a Rolex, pretty tough watch, pretty nice watch. And everybody in the bar was thinking about that, like, this guy is wearing a watch on his wrist that he found in a halibut that they caught down on the South Peninsula. So we were all thinking about that. I was just kind of looking at my beer thinking that's the weirdest story I think I've ever heard. And the guy who had opened the conversation down at the end of the bar, he says, I used to have a watch, looked a lot like that. That's a Rolex, right? And the guy goes, yeah, it's a Rolex. And he goes, yeah, I had a watch that really did look a lot like that. Could I just, and the guy holds up the watch like this. He goes, yeah, that's interesting. And, but I lost it. And the other guy with the watch says, well, where'd you lose it? And he goes, well, it's weird, but I was shrimp fishing some years back down by a Linchak, and we were setting the tow, and there was a snag in the cable. We were putting the doors out, and the cable, I reached down to do something. I should never have done it, but I reached down, and there was a snag in the cable, and it caught my watch and pulled it overboard. And it went into the water, and I've never seen it again. And the guy with the watch on his wrist said, wow, that's pretty weird. You lost your watch shrimp fishing down by a Linchak. He goes, yeah, I never seen it again. And the guy with the watch on his wrist said, well, how, like, what kind of a watch was it, or where'd you get it? And he said, well, I was in Vietnam, 68, and when I flew back through Hawaii, I was with some buddies that were in the same unit as me in Vietnam. And we all got these watches. We all bought these Rolexes, and we had inscriptions put on the back of them that had our names. And the dates were in Vietnam, like 67, 68. And the guy with the watch said, well, that's pretty interesting. What's your name again, sir? And the guy says, oh, I'm Joe Smith. And we're all just sort of listening to this story. And the guy with the watch on his wrist said, buddy, this is your watch. And he pulls it off. And on the back was this other guy's name. And it said, South Vietnam, October 68 or October 67 to November 68 or whatever it said. And we all kind of went over there and looked at it. And everybody in the bar was just stunned. And I think somebody bought a round for the bar, and then I had to catch my airplane. I never seen those two guys again, but that's got to be the weirdest fish story that I've ever heard. So that's my story.